Welcome in, guys. We got our man John back today. We split on a pair of bets yesterday. We lose with the Sixers, get a W with the Pelicans and the Raptors in the late game, and let's see if we can get back on track today. One bet already out to Massa Edge members. You guys want all our bets and all our information? Sign up on massaedge.com or download the Massa Edge app. Got a nice little slate today. A lot of injuries. Trade deadline around the corner. John, how we feeling? Doing all right there?
A little bit better. Just good enough last night to play on the Pelicans. Toronto just in a terrible spot, coming back-to-back double overtime, and they're going to rest Barrett. Just a great spot for Pelicans. Not very often am I going to lay double digits, but this was one of the spots. So hit that for a 2-unit bet, but 76ers cost us a 1-unit bet. They kind of let it go after having a halftime lead. I thought Maxey and Harris, now knowing Embiid's going to be gone for a while. He actually just went under surgery this morning. So he's not even getting looked at for another 4 weeks. So when you realize, okay, this is it. This is what we got. Harris and Maxey look to step up. Harris played a nice game. Yeah. Maxey hasn't replicated that game in Utah, though, these last 2 games since coming home. Couldn't throw the ball in the water against Brooklyn, and then again last night against Dallas. So they let a first half lead slip away. Philly, just huge, showing how much they miss Embiid. They're also missing guys like Batum and Melton. Yeah, not household names, but these are other starters on one of the thinnest teams, one of the weakest benches in the NBA. Every game that they're missing gets a little tougher. So we'll take a little positive for yesterday. My positive is COVID. That was positive, but we're getting over that. So on to today. Nice little card today. One bet we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, guys, go ahead and run through this slate. As always, appreciate you guys tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe below. Let's cook this thing off. We got the Rockets at Indiana to start off this slate. Rockets coming off a bad loss at Minnesota. Same old with them, just struggling on the road this season. Really bad performances from a lot of guys in that game. Brooks, Green, Jabari Smith all shot horrible, combined 6 for 26. Van Fleet, he's going to be missing tonight. And then you have this Pacers team coming off a win against the Hornets, who everybody's beating the Hornets right now. You had Siakam with a big game in that one. Halliburton, that's the big question mark here. He's questionable. Even in the games he's played, he hasn't really been much of a positive. He's not playing very many minutes. He's having high turnovers. So waiting to see, one, if he plays. 2, when is that minutes restriction going to be removed? When is he going to be back to himself? Either way, no interest here in Houston. They're just not getting it done on the road this season. And this Pacers own them a little bit. Last 7 meetings, they've won 5-2 against the spread. Want to see, I would actually prefer Halliburton be out in this game, get Pacers at a cheaper price.
Yeah, well, Halliburton, if you're a Massa Edge member, you could see in our ratings, I've actually got the Pacers rated, and it says Halliburton not 100%. So with what Halliburton's worth to a team now, as Ben said, 20 to 22 minutes he's been playing in the last 4 games since coming back. So they're keeping an eye on that hamstring. My guess is they'll keep it that way right through the All-Star break, try to keep him healthy for the second half. Houston, they can't shoot. They had a nice little streak at the beginning of the season, and they were doing it with D, and that's kind of escaping from them. Dylan Brooks got hurt earlier in the year. He was their best defensive player. When he got hurt, with him went the defense, and it hasn't returned. But what has been the same is they can't shoot, and now you're going to be without Van Vliet, one of your better shooters, one of the guys that your point guard, the guy that operates everything. Tough spot for Houston. As Ben said, Houston's pretty much owned this series, went down to Houston earlier this year, beat them 123-117. Indiana playing better ball, getting look, they're the deepest team in the NBA. Their bench gives you the most scoring. They can fight with Halliburton only playing minutes. McConnell comes in off the bench, gives them good point guard minutes. So can't be on Houston in this one. It's Indiana or nobody, but that line is pretty much baked in. 7.5, a pretty top number. I expect Halliburton to play. As a matter of fact, the other day we had conflicting reports. He was in, he was out. One game, they brought him in off the bench. He's going to keep playing, but he's going to be playing limited minutes would be my best guess.
Then we have Dallas at Brooklyn. Both teams coming in on a back-to-back. Both teams were playing tight games up until the back end of the third quarter yesterday, and Dallas pulled away on Philly. The Nets, they let it slip against Golden State. I mean, you bet against Dallas, and Luka only scores 19 points. You got to feel pretty good about that most nights. Couldn't get it done, though. Kyrie was decent in his return. Ben Simmons, he's supposed to go tonight, and they've won the 2 games he's played. They lost the 2 games he's missed. We talk about guys like Draymond Green, Steven Adams, just do all the little things. Ben Simmons is right in that category, but one of the more athletic guys that does all the little things. So big in there. He hasn't played many minutes yet, but his impact's definitely been felt. And you have a couple of other wings here. Johnson and Walker, questionable for Brooklyn. Weird matchup history. Both teams on a back-to-back. Lean here is with Brooklyn. Got to see what's going on here, though, with the Mavs. Are they going to play both these guys? Does Kyrie play on the second night of a back-to-back?
Yeah, yesterday was Kyrie's first game in a while, so does he play back-to-back? It is Brooklyn. Does he want to go up against his old team? He had a little thing in Brooklyn, so we'll see. Luka did not look 100% either. Remember, he was questionable coming up to the game, just 6 for 15 last night. So Kyrie, Luka, while they're not officially listed questionable, I want to keep an eye out for that. Nets, they had a couple of guys leave the game, Cam Johnson and Walker last night. Now, Simmons didn't play last night, as Ben said. 4 games he's returned. 2 they won, the 2 he played. The 2 that he sat, they lost. Simmons no lock to play any game right up until game time, until we see that there's that he's not going to miss. We don't know about this guy playing. You know his injury history. Dallas has pretty much owned the series, winning 7 of the last 8, but just 4 against the spread in the last 5 games have all been decided by 5 points or less, including 125-120 in Dallas earlier this year. Expect another close one. Keep our eyes out for the superstars. Would be interested in Brooklyn as a home dog or nothing in this one.
Then we're going to have this Grizzlies at the Knicks. You have Memphis coming off that game at Boston. Only 8 players were available in that game. They're going to be shorthanded again tonight. Jackson and Tillman, they're going to remain added to the laundry list. I mean, they have a whole starting lineup now out of this on the IL, and then we'll see who else misses of this sheet of players. So between Concar and everybody else, Williams and Vince Williams, got to see who goes for Memphis tonight. And then you have this Knicks team, and they're banged up as well. You have, obviously, Randall with the issue. OG, ironically, goes down at the same time. Has now missed 5 in a row, concluding tonight. Quentin Grimes going to be missing a couple in a row at this point. And Grimes, that really adds up once you think about the fact they traded away 2 pieces to bring in OG Anunoby. You also traded away a point guard and quickly. You take a point guard in Grimes, you're really down in your guard depth as well. So they've already been shorthanded and big since Mitchell Robinson. You have 2 teams absolutely depleted going at it here. Really, really big number. I get it. Memphis extremely shorthanded, but tough to get up this high on the number. And for prop bettors, I keep talking about DiVincenzo, the stretch he's been on. In the last 4 games, he has had 22 or more shots in each of every game. Scored 20 plus or more points, over 25, 3 of those 4 games. And that's all plus money right there. We're going to score 25 or more. He's got to get the shots up. He's getting the looks, and he's the second option right now. Worth playing that DiVincenzo, 25 or 30 plus points.
Yeah, and then he has to. There's just nobody else to get him. As Ben said, look, Memphis is decimated, just absolutely decimated. But the Knicks are playing without what would be 3 starters and another rotation player in Grimes. So I just can't make this game 14.5. That's a lot of points. This is just a little bit of an overlay because they got so embarrassed by 40 up in Boston yesterday. 2 days ago, I believe that was Sunday. So, yeah, I took the points in this one, plus 14.5. The Knicks should be double digits, but double digits, 10.5, 11, maybe 11.5. I can't get to 14.5. As terrible and as decimated as they are, would expect a couple of other guys back tonight like Aldama. Yeah, got to take the points in this one. As bad as they are decimated, Knicks are not. They're far from 100%. They should win. They may win by double digits, but 14.5 is worth the take.
Then we have the battle in Florida, Magic at Miami. You have Magic coming off a win against Detroit. You have the Heat now, who are coming off a loss to the Clippers. Tyler Hero did not play that game. He was missed. They were right in it pretty much the whole way. You have Miami. They won their prior 2 games. They looked like they're playing a bit better basketball. They ran into one of the hottest teams in the league, and the Clippers lose that game. So we'll see if they continue trending upward here against Orlando. Before that, though, they had the 7-game losing streak, and they are now just 2-8, 1-9 against the spread their last 10 at home, while the Magic are 7-9, 12-4 against the spread their last 16 on the road. Good news for the Heat, though. They own this matchup in Miami. 8 straight wins, only 4-4 against the spread. But again, as this matchup goes on, as Orlando get better, as Miami gets a bit worse, these spreads becoming shorter and shorter in this matchup for the Heat to cover. Would be a lean here to Miami in this spot. We'll see where this number goes. Tyler Hero is already going to be back in the lineup. He's probable. Robinson's questionable.
Yeah, Hero missed the last game, late scratch with a headache. He should be back today. This is another one of these last game of a trip. So this for Orlando is their 5th and final game of a 9-day trip. We always talk about these trips. So let's talk about yesterday. We had 3 scenarios where teams were finishing the final game of a trip that lasted longer than a week.
Yeah.
So a quick recap. We got Sacramento, 7th and final game of an 11-day trip, blown out at Cleveland. The Lakers, 6th and final game of a 10-day trip, win but blow the cover against Charlotte. And the Clippers, they were the 7th and final game of 11-day trip, win. They do cover, just getting there. That line was 4. They win by 5. So when we talk about these trips over a week and the final game of that trip, always a tough spot. So it'll be a tough spot for Orlando. Miami sitting home. They're coming off the loss to the Clippers. They need a game. Miami's got to get right. They had a 7-game losing streak. They had 2 wins. That not enough to put them back on the right path when the Clippers came in. And now they've got Orlando. Well, a team that they've beaten and beaten at home just don't cover. Now, again, Miami, remember, 2nd worst team at home against the spread last year, and same this year, just don't cover at home. But this is a 3. This is a low number. This is what I make the game. I've got no dog in this fight unless there's a late injury. I think the line should be 3. That's what it is. Again, just always a tough spot, that final game of a trip that lasts longer than a week.
Then we have T-Wolves at Chicago. Wolves coming off that win there against Houston. Edwards, solid night. Gobert with a solid night. Manny, 3-1, their last 4 straight up against the spread. You have this Bulls team coming off a tough loss there against Sacramento. They did have 3 score over 24 plus. Kobe White led with them. Caruso, he's questionable. He's also a name that's been around in trade rumors a lot, so you got to be careful looking to bet the Chicago Bulls team. Obviously, pretty much everyone's available at the deadline. Got to see what they end up doing. As far as the matchup history, a little bit favors to Chicago. They won last 4 meetings in Chicago, covered all 4, average of 8.5 points. Going to be interesting to see here. You have Minnesota with the next game with Milwaukee, so maybe a little bit of a look ahead for the Timberwolves. Lean here to the home dog with the Bulls. Got to see what's going on with Caruso. Another one of those guys. There's all little things makes your team that much better.
Okay, he definitely is. He didn't look not to the extent of Dre Green or a Ben Simmons, but this guy, he plays D. He makes you a better team. I cannot believe that Chicago hasn't pulled the trigger. They've already blown Zach LaVine.
Yeah.
Zach LaVine just went under a procedure. He's done for the season. That was a guy that they were looking to trade for 2 years. Caruso and DeRozan are 2 other ones that have been on the block. We're 2 days away, guys. The trade deadline is Thursday. That's it. So these guys could get moved at any minute. Caruso questionable. He did not practice yesterday. White, he didn't practice yesterday either, but he's going to be considered probable. If everybody plays, for me, it's Bulls or nobody. If everybody plays and there's no trades, I just like taking the points at home with the Bulls. Timberwolves have been great this year, but 5 points on the road, I would be a lean to the short. They've lost their last 4 trips in there.
And we have Thunder at Utah. Thunder coming off that ridiculous game against the Raptors, down by as much as 23, force OT, go to double OT, pull it out in that one. They're now 1-3 straight, but still just 1-4 against the spread their last 5. Jalen Williams, he's missed the last couple of games. Got to see what's going on with him. He's questionable, big piece for that team. And then you have this Utah team who they're coming off a crazy win in themselves against Milwaukee. They absolutely dominated them in the fourth quarter, beat them 40-13. So ridiculous game there for the Jazz. They come all the way back. You have one of the better road teams in the NBA in the Thunder, 14-9-1 against the spread. You have the best home team in the NBA, 10-2, 9-3 against the spread. Their last 12 at home. So two teams matchup-wise, pretty tough. As far as the history, Utah used to absolutely own this matchup, and they just exchanged hands with that about 5 games ago. The Thunder have now won and covered the last 5 meetings by an average of 14.5 points. So tough spot one for OKC. You're coming off a crazy win, but then again, so is Utah. So who's that going to affect more? Obviously there's no more revenge in this. It's now more so ownership. OKC's next stop is at Dallas. Don't think there's much of a look there. Would be a lean here to the Thunder ever so slightly. Hard to go against, the best against the spread home team in the NBA taking points, and I never want to with Utah. Just equally coming off a bad spot there with that win against the Bucks. Yeah,
that's at first glance, especially if you're a massive edge member, you're like, oh, it must be taking Utah in this one. Just can't. They've now turning it into an ownership. 5 straight, including 2 this year. They beat them the last time in Utah. We had them that time. They beat them 134-129. I think the number is a bit high. I still think it's a bit high. I'm not going with the Thunder. It would be Jazz and nobody. But if they own you, they own you. Unless this one goes a little bit higher, I would have to be stay off the game. If it went a little higher, I'd be on a Jazz.
Yeah, OKC not playing until Saturday. Good amount of time off after this game. And then the last game we have going on tonight, former finals matchup from a few years back, Bucks at Phoenix. You only have Devin Booker, the last remaining piece from that finals team. And then as far as this Bucks team, brutal loss at Utah, just to blow that up 13 to end up losing by ridiculous. As far as the rest of this trip, hasn't been going well for them. They're 4-6, 1-9 against the spread their last 10 road games. Lillard and Lopez, they're going to be questionable. Imagine Lillard goes, and so is Lopez. We'll see what's going on with him. He has some personal issues. If Lopez sits again, Portis, he's been doing some big stuff in his absence. Then you have this Suns team, and Bradley Beal goes back to Washington and reminded everybody who he is. Drops 43 points on 16 of 21 in his return there. Nurkic, who's been huge, has a near triple-double in that game. Phoenix playing pretty good ball lately, not covering too much, but 10-3 the last 13. As far as the matchup history, all Milwaukee, 7-1 the last 8 meetings. Leans here to the Bucks. Things have not been good in the Doc Rivers era yet. Things have not been good on this road trip. It's a matchup. They match up really, really well against Phoenix, and we'll see what they got here in store. Got to see what's going on with some of these questionables, but pretty big number here. As good as Phoenix has been playing, they haven't faced too much top-level competition on this little stretch they've been on.
So just touch on Beal quick second. So Beal did go 16 for 21 in his last game at Washington for 43 points, but out of the 5 starters, had the worst plus-minus. It's just plus 17. So again, this is a situation where you're feeding somebody to get his home revenge, against an old team or somebody on their birthday. And as it always happens, it's a detriment, as it was when he was on the court. He was a plus 17. The top starter that game, not Beal, not KD, not Booker, but plain old Grayson Allen at a plus 30, just sitting there doing his job. And again, that's what's the important thing. But let's get past that. We get the Bucks in another situation, last of a trip, 5th city, 9-day trip, last of a trip. So right away, that's a problem. But almost as equally as bad is the return from the trip, and that's what Phoenix is facing. They're returning home from a 7-city, 12-day trip, only 1 day to get back. This is a tough spot for them. This is even tougher for Milwaukee. I feel Milwaukee's going to show for them. Look, both teams I think will show, but Milwaukee really wants this one especially. This has been a bad road trip. The only fucking game they won and covered in the last month was the game we had against the Mavs, a game they were down 24 points after the first quarter, and they came back with that W. Then they go to Utah, take a big first half lead, only to get smoked in the fourth quarter. I think they get up for this game. We need to wait and see. Brook Lopez missed the last 2 games for personal reasons. He's got a question mark next to him, and so does Lillard, who's just been shooting terrible, except for the Maverick game. I've been losing my mind this NBA season. Lillard shoots 10 of 11 in that Maverick game, knocking down all 5 threes. He had shot over 40% only once in his prior 6 games going into that. Just nothing makes sense anymore. We'll wait to see if Lillard plays. This spot for me, it's going to be Milwaukee or nobody if they're healthy. Again, the returning home just as bad as the last of the trip as far as the spot's concerned. And I think Milwaukee needs a W just a little bit more than Phoenix does right now.
Yep, guys, there's a few questionables on this slate that's going to adjust some things for the Bucks, for the Bulls, some different games we're looking at here tonight. Jalen Williams for OKC. As always, you guys want injury updates as the day goes on. Make sure you sign up on the app or the website. And hopefully we can get this week good back on track. Split yesterday up for a nice profit. See if we can get some green going. We had a nice little run. Then we ran into last week. We had a nice little bad run. We'll see if we can flip things into a good run again. Especially heading into Super Bowl Sunday. Make sure you guys tune in on Friday. We'll do a deep dive for the Super Bowl game coming up this weekend.
Yep, for sure. We definitely have a lean, waiting for some injury news on that, just as we are in every NBA basketball game. Until 90 minutes before tip-off, an hour before tip-off, is a potential injury game. That's just how it is. Again, not questionable, not even on their injury list as of yet. But we'll be watching for Luka and Kyrie. Do they both play after in a back-to-back situation? So we'll take a look at that. If you guys remember, it was just last week when Dallas went to Minnesota and just sat everybody. You're already going to be missing Lively. Exum is doubtful. He's been out for a while. So we'll keep an eye and see how they're going to treat this back-to-back. Again, everybody, I'm day to day. Yesterday I was out. Today I'm okay. I'm a question mark later, but we'll see how that goes. So yeah, you got to pay attention. We're on top of all the injuries. One bet today is the Grizzlies plus 2 touchdowns and the hook. So we'll see how that one goes.
Make sure you guys tune back in tomorrow. Up with these Monday through Friday, 1:00 Eastern. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Like, comment, subscribe below. Let's make some money, John.
Let's make some money.